Hello and welcome to the Saints Squad Show. I'm your host, Dylan Sanders of Saints Wire. And did we just watch the most exciting little bit of Saints football we're going to see all year?
What's up, everybody? This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore. And I don't know if it's just me, but today's tie felt like a win.
It's the Saints Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
Hello, howdy Who Dat Nation. Welcome back to the Saints Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every Sunday and Thursday. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, we're going to be diving into the preseason game that just happened, the tie. It's going to be awesome. And so if you're new to our Sunday episodes, it's a little bit of a different vibe. We're coming in right after the game. It's going to be, today, me and Lance, it's going to be a little bit more rotational. Ross and John are there at the game. They're going to jump in whenever they can, but we're going to, start off with me and Lance right now, and I think we can handle it. Be sure to drop in any questions you have. We'll get to some chats because we're going, again, live right after the game. And let's just start off with Lance. Immediate thoughts, immediate reactions to that game.
All right. I mean, honestly, I think that Spencer Rattler kind of solidified himself as the number one quarterback, right? Like it's interesting to see how the quarterback rotation goes throughout training camp and practices, right? But then you get to the game, okay, one guy's going to start the first game, then the other guy's going to start the second preseason game. And it's amazing how different, in my opinion, Spencer Rattler looked today as opposed to Tyler Shough. And I'm not talking about stats or the type of plays. I'm talking about how he looked in the pocket, how he looked handling and commanding the offense, how he moved the group up and down the field. He wasn't rattled. He stood in there and took some shots today, which is something that as Saints fans, we haven't seen in a couple of years because the last guy wasn't doing that too much.
No.
But I do think that, Spencer Rattler was the guy that really, really stood out. But I have a list of guys that I think did really, really well today. I mean, obviously, Mason Tipton is at the top of that list as well. Jonas Sanker obviously showed up and made a bunch of plays. But, we'll get into the other guys. But my initial reaction is, first and foremost, they competed. They continue to compete throughout the entirety of the game and did enough to leave us with probably not a disgusting taste in our mouth, because it was like, for a lot of that game, it was kind of like can we just get this over with as soon as possible? That was kind of how I was feeling. But Spencer Rattler obviously kind of woke me up, and I'm sure he did that for a lot of people that were watching all over the place.
Yeah, I was not feeling much about this game, and then Rattler came in and kind of did exactly what we've been asking for. He took those chances. He, converted in the red zone. He did make that mistake, but, so did Tyler Shough last week. We gave him the benefit of the doubt. We let him grow. And Spencer Rattler did the exact same thing. He came out, answered, and looked as poised as ever. Maybe had his best drive as a New Orleans Saint after that interception. And again, that's all you can really ask for. The only thing is, now I don't really feel like the quarterback battle has gotten any closer, because Tyler Shough didn't have an awful day either. And again, this is kind of like the same thing as last week. So we're moving into week 3 where I still don't feel like there's a concrete answer. And I feel like either one right now could be the guy. I don't feel much separation in my mind, which is good for, I think, Spencer Rattler, because he was kind of starting to dip a little bit. But he came back with the haymaker in this one, and I think he won the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I agree with you. I don't think it's set in stone. I just think based off of that performance, I believe we will see Spencer Rattler as the week 1 starter. And it's going to be really interesting this week. Like, are they both going to play in the third preseason game? Is it going to be Jake Haener throughout? Like what are we going to see? But I do want to speak on the interception. Totally different type of play than last week in Tyler Shough's interception. This to me was like a run pass option type situation. And I think the only thing I think Spencer Rattler got a little bit greedy with his decision. The throw was not bad. The receiver let him down. I mean, Mason Tipton ran his route as if in his mind, he thought that Spencer Rattler was going to hand the ball off. Spencer Rattler was obviously throwing the ball thinking that Mason Tipton was going to run his route to win. He slows down and does not finish. You have to cross the DB's face no matter what on a slant route 100 times out of 100. He did not do that. The DB overcut him and picked the ball off. I would say, sure, it's Spencer Rattler's fault because he threw the ball and he made the decision to throw the ball, but the receiver has to make him right. And I'm not trying to throw Mason Tipton under the bus, but, I got to be real as I'm analyzing what I see. That play is on him. And another reason why I don't think that was the greatest decision is because where they were on the field, right? You're in the red zone. I'm not sure if they were 20-yard line, 15-yard line, somewhere in there. The DBs oftentimes are going to be playing zone coverage. Zone coverage means their eyes are generally in the backfield. And if that defensive back is off coverage with his eyes in the backfield, that means he's reading the quarterback. So he's not backing up on that play. There's not anywhere for him to go. He's already, let's just say the ball was at the 20. He's already at the 10, 12-yard line. He's not going anywhere because he knows they're not running go routes at that point. And they're probably not running sluggo, right, which is a slant and go. So he knows right away once that receiver in front of him takes a couple steps and breaks in, oh, there's a slant. That's an easy chance for me to go ahead and beat him to the ball, and that's what he did. Easy play for the DB, not the greatest decision from the quarterback, and a letdown by the wide receiver out there. But outside of that one single play, you could argue that Mason Tipton was the MVP of the day. I mean, he continues to show up and make plays, and it's not always the big downfield plays. He's starting to show more in the route running aspect, in the short and intermediate aspect. And the more that you can do as a receiver, especially as a young receiver, the more potential opportunity that you can get, especially with the group that has had some injury issues in the past. I think he's kind of solidifying himself as a lock, I guess, to be a part of that receiver core. I don't know what number receiver he is, as everybody's obsessed with wide receiver 1, 2, etc. I just think that he's doing everything that he needs to do to solidify a roster spot and potentially be a contributor every single Sunday.
Yeah, I would at this point, I'd be shocked if I'd be really shocked if Mason Tipton doesn't convert the preseason hype this time into an actual roster spot, because there really hasn't been anyone else. I mean, Dante Pettis made a couple plays today.
Played well. He played well.
He played well. He has his special teams ability. So I think Mason Tipton and Dante Pettis are stepping up. We lost Bub Means for forever, whenever, not forever, but forever, however long that he's out. Right. And then it's been a lot of waiting for the others to come in. And so I think Mason Tipton did about as good of a job as he could have today. And it's good that he has shown that ability now with both quarterbacks. He's made big plays in back-to-back weeks. There's all the talk about, who's getting reps with who or whatever, but the fact that they're able to come in and still make these big plays shows the ability of Mason Tipton. And he even created some separation on one of the plays, I think before the interception. I don't know, the last couple drives are melding in my mind. There was a slight overthrow from Rattler, but Mason Tipton did create separation. He was open. He could have
wide open. I mean, that could have been a touchdown. And I agree with you that it's good to see him making plays with both guys. So it's not like, okay, obviously these two have been practicing together. He's going to throw him the ball every single time he gets a chance. It's like, oh, okay, this guy is open, obviously, all the time. And now both guys are comfortable throwing him the ball, and he's making those plays. I've always thought that it's it's somewhat overrated talking about the quarterback receiver chemistry. I think season over season, it's important, but in a situation like this where it's a battle, I don't know that it matters as much that it's like, okay, this guy's been practicing with this guy a lot. It's like, okay, these quarterbacks have to get the ball to whoever's open. Okay, that receiver's the guy that continues to get open, you know. But you know, I liked what I saw in the fourth quarter for sure. Like just the competitiveness. The offense had a couple situations where they had to overcome penalties. You know, the bouncing back after the interception, after driving the field. I mean, that was big, and that's I think as a head coach, it is important to see your guys deal with a little bit of adversity, especially in the preseason. You know, as it relates to getting your team ready. But I just keep going back to how comfortable Spencer Rattler looked, and just to me, he looked like the veteran. You know, I mean, obviously he's only been in the league 1 year longer, but like he looked so much more composed. When stuff wasn't there, he was tucking it and running it, getting a couple of yards. He got a couple first downs with his legs. He tucked one and had a little short pass out. I mean, he made plays that were off script, I would say. And you're going to have to do that in the National Football League. Everything can't be dropped back. You're protected perfectly. Throw it to the guy that's wide open, move on to the next play and do it over and over and over again. That's just not the reality. The guys on the other side of the ball get paid as well. And so to see him do those things as well as hanging in there and taking some shots while delivering on target throws, that's what you want to see from your starting quarterback. And I think one thing that has been talked about a lot throughout training camp, and I guess throughout even the offseason, is that like it seems like the guys are they kind of raise their level of play even around him. And it's like that says something that the guys really want to go to battle with this guy. You know, and I'm sure that kind of radiates throughout the locker room. I'm sure the coaches feel that, like, okay, when this guy's on the field, like it's a little bit different. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what, I mean, if they do end up playing starters next week, like Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, I feel like you have to get Rattler in with the ones at this point. Because, you know, Rattler was the starter for week one. Shough was the starter last week, but Rattler didn't have, you know, Olave and Shaheed. And I really, really liked the play calling and the quick game that they were running with Olave and Shaheed, having them both on the field, the screens, the quick throws, getting players open in space. And I think Shough did a really good job with that. But I also think that is the type of game, if they're running it, Spencer Rattler could really shine in because we do see him make more of those kind of plays. And then he opens up the deep game today. And it was, again, it was what we've wanted to see from Rattler. So it's great. So I think at any point, Rattler needs to get chances with Olave and Shaheed next week if they end up playing them. And yeah, like you said right now, I do think if the season were to start right now, Rattler would be QB1. But again, that doesn't mean Shough won't see his chances throughout the year, especially if things go poorly. Because I mean, I think the hardest part of the Saints schedule might be the first 5 weeks. So they're going to need to buckle in and come up with a decision soon. And like you said, I do think it's leaning Rattler right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I'm interested to see like who's out there on the field. And look, while it doesn't seem fair that Tyler Shough got to play with starting receivers and Spencer Rattler did not in preseason games, I don't know that it's that important, honestly, because they've seen it through the entirety of training camp, right? So they know, you know, what the each quarterback kind of looks like with each group. And look, I agree with you as well on the quick game stuff. Getting the ball into your playmakers' hands early and allowing them to do things after the catch. I mean, that's going to be huge for either of the quarterbacks, regardless of who ends up being the starter. And I think just how Tyler Shough handled those situations well and put the ball on target. Spencer Rattler is a guy that's known for his accuracy as well. So I think he is somebody that can shine in that role as well.
Yeah. I think that this is right now, it's a much more positive feeling and vibe than it felt like it was going to be through the first couple of quarters of play.
Yeah.
Whenever the Jaguars starters were destroying the Saints backup defense, and it was just miserable to watch. But we touched on the quarterbacks. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about them throughout the episode. But for now, let's move on and talk a little bit about the sides of the team that maybe didn't show what we wanted to see coming up next. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and the rest of the Saints squad are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, it's the best place to play. I mean, I have a dynasty league, and I'm feeling pretty good right now because I drafted Spencer Rattler in the 6th round or whatever that year is, and now I think I got a starting quarterback on my thing. So I think me and the Rattler Snakes are going to take it all the way this year. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they've just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's only one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play your head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right. Well, we avoided saying at least one name for the first 15 minutes. Let's jump into Cesar Ruiz and the offensive line because it was not a pretty day. I think Cesar Ruiz is someone that had a great year last year, at least a good step up from what we had seen. But today was a really bad day, and it was those stunts that we talked about last week. It was where the guy lines up over Fuaga, shoots inside on Ruiz and attacks him and gets through him every time. What are your initial thoughts on the offensive line from this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's what they've struggled with in the last couple weeks is exactly what they're going to see come time for the regular season, right? Because everybody's going to be watching these preseason games and see that our offensive line is struggling with any kind of stunts, twist, games by the defensive lineman up front. What do I mean by that? Well, generally your defensive linemen line up in a gap or over a guy, and they have a responsibility to a certain gap or gaps. If you have any kind of stunt, that means that some or a few of the guys will have a different responsibility other than where they're lined up. Usually it's guys switching responsibilities, they're twisting. One guy might hit an offensive lineman so that the other guy could peel around. It's normal in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. Guys don't just line up in a spot and rush forward, right? It's part of what they do as defensive linemen to help free one another up. And it was a tough one out there today for that starting offensive line. And that's something that needs to get cleaned up quickly because, again, like I said, they're going to see that over and over and over again. And if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm watching this film, I'm licking my chops like, oh, yeah, like we're going to get after these guys. We're just going to throw a couple stunts and games at these guys, and they're not going to be able to stop it. Hopefully it's not the case. Hopefully these guys are able to kind of right that ship. But I do also think that part of it is that there was a rookie quarterback in there, and the defense knows that, like, okay, we can probably confuse this quarterback and get after him a little bit by running some of these stunts and games. And it looked like Tyler Shough was caught off guard by some of those situations with the pass rush and defenders in his face. And it just goes back to what I said earlier. Like, those situations weren't as troublesome for Spencer Rattler today as they were for Tyler Shough. I mean, the first time he dropped back, his leg slips out from under him and he falls down. And like, it just taking sacks, to me, sometimes you have to, right? You just have to get on the ball and take one. But if you can use your legs and athleticism and get out of the pocket. If you can find a receiver down the field and try to make a play, or you know where your outlet is, at least throw the ball in his direction, and you can still throw it in the dirt. You can't throw the ball at Cesar Ruiz. Like this is the NFL. Like that is illegal in the NFL. So yeah, I mean it's the offensive line is a work in progress. So I mean we talked about how we think they can be a very, very good unit potentially. But that's not necessarily anything that's going to happen overnight. It's definitely going to be a situation where these guys are going to have to get back to the drawing board, get back to the technique. And I know they'll watch the film in the next couple of days. They'll correct the things that they got wrong, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to see that same type of defense going forward. Because I know that they will. Every single defensive coordinator of the teams that we play will see those struggles and be like, okay, we have to do that as well.
Yeah. Do want to shout out this comment in the chat. Every quarterback is bad under pressure. Yes and no. Yes and no, because some are way worse than others. And Tyler,
I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I don't agree that every quarterback is bad under pressure. I mean, there's certain guys. Think back to Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. Like, you think Drew Brees was bad under pressure, or you think Drew Brees was savvy enough to be able to find a lane or be able to move his body a little bit to get around? Okay, let's talk modern football. You think Lamar Jackson is bad under pressure? Like,
I mean, pressure might be whenever they're at their best, because that's whenever he escapes and playing.
It's crazy. I mean, like Josh Allen as well. Like, they put him under pressure. Oh, okay, he shrugs one guy off and he makes a huge throw. Like I'm not saying that it's easy, but I think that the excuse making for guys is not good for anybody. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, what I was going to say is through that is that every quarterback facing pressure does make the job harder, and Shough did not respond to that well today. I mean, he's a rookie, but this could be a season where he could face a lot of pressure. I mean, again, he's a rookie quarterback, and he just didn't do good enough in that front today. Again, this offensive line was missing Eric McCoy, but again, we saw that last year. It's not enough of an excuse to look as poor as they did at times today. Kelvin Banks Jr. is another guy. I said this week I wanted to see how he responded from that tough week in practice, and I don't think he responded very well. It was a tough day for him. It was a tough day for pretty much everybody out there. And this is a group that has already started to feel some of that injury trouble. Cesar Ruiz was in the tent at some point. He came out and seems to be fine. But Trevor Penning was hurt. Will Clapp's out. Nick Salivari's out. Dylan Radins has had to move around from tackle and guard. Mm-hmm. It's been a rough start to the year for the offensive line, and it's definitely not looking as smooth as we thought it might. But I'll be interested to see what it looks like when McCoy's in there and running the show. It'll look better. It'll look better
for sure.
It'll look better. And I'm interested to see who kind of steps up throughout the year at guard, because I don't know if they're not going to keep Ruiz in there every game just by default. If he plays like he did today, they'll be testing guys out at some point.
I agree. I mean, or else they should. I mean, there's obviously other factors at play as it relates to NFL football. I mean, Cesar Ruiz is not a cheap player, right? So like, it could be like, we got to give this guy every last opportunity until blah, 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 blah. But if he can't protect anybody and he's not a road grader in the run game, you kind of don't really have any excuse to keep him on the field. I think we'll see a better version of him, especially when Eric McCoy is out there. I just think that he's so good that he makes everybody around him better. The communication is better. I was going to say the camaraderie, but the connection that the group has as a whole is better. And I mean, he's elite. Like I do feel like he's one of the best centers in the National Football League, and him being able to do multiple things every play, it seems like, will help those guys, especially the two guards that are next to him.
Keeping it on the offensive line, a little bit. The run game looked a little bit better today. At least there were some guys that stood out. They had some nice runs whenever there was a hole opened up. Velus Jones Jr. had a couple of nice runs there towards the end, with the better holes that they saw throughout the day. Kendre Miller is someone that, he needs to stay healthy, but he's showing the juice at least a little bit. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a nice couple of plays. I liked his energy and his emotion that he was showing whenever he, took that hit and kept running. I feel like that's the kind of stuff, especially the depth of the roster needs to bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, young quarterback, young offensive line, like gonna have to be able to run the football. We're not gonna be that team that's dropping back and throwing it 50 times a game. So having multiple backs that can make plays for you, and obviously we have not seen AK in the preseason. I doubt that we will, but like you said, like just being able to have depth at the position. I like what I've seen from Kendre this preseason, and it was never about his lack of ability or lack of talent, right? It was his not being able to stay healthy and stay on the field. So if he's able to stay healthy, which looks like he is, I see no reason why he should not be, the backup to AK and have a solid role in what we're doing offensively. I don't know that he's going to get 15 carries a game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him, 5 to 10 touches a game, because he's good. Like, he is a good player. We just need to see him consistently being a good player. I love what we saw from Velus Jones Jr. Just super explosive, and he's definitely a guy that I think should be able to carve out a role, whether it's as a gadget guy. They bring him in and put him on jet sweeps. They bring him in and involve him somewhat in the screen game, even putting him in as a slot receiver. I think he's got the quicks to be able to get open against defenses. And, it's going to be interesting what, the rest of that group looks like. Whether it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Cam Akers. I mean, it's hard guessing the roster, right? Like,
and there's still Devin Neal, who is a draft pick that we haven't even seen yet. Like,
exactly. So, like, you don't really know what they're thinking, and you can try to infer whatever you want based on what you see or what you read about them. But the jury is still out as far as the outside goes, and I guess we won't know until, around August 26th what the entirety of that group looks like. But I think there are some good options, and I think people should feel a little bit better about that room than maybe they did at the beginning of the offseason.
Yeah, it's one, like, we've always known that it's going to be AK. I guess gadget is probably the better term for it. I was going to say, I like Velus Jones Jr. to make this roster just because it does kind of feel like you get like a 2-for-1. Like, he can still play receiver. He can line up out there. He can do different things. Even though he is more getting, more focused right now on being a running back, because it's just about getting the ball in his hands at this point. If he's, clearly wasn't having the best, route running or whatever in the first couple of years of his career, he just needs the opportunity to get the ball in his hands and run with it. And I think that having him there, especially even on like special teams at times, could help because I still get nervous seeing Rashid Shaheed out there. I know that he's so good out there, and it's hard to just be like, hey, we're not going to use that to our advantage. But sometimes you can let him, get a little bit of a break when you have a guy like Velus Jones, who feels like anytime he touches the ball, no matter how he gets it, he could go all the way.
Yeah, I mean, he's a certified home run hitter. And the more of those guys that you can have on an offense, the better. His speed kills, and defenses are always fearful of guys who are burners that can run by them. So a lot of times it leaves things open that are underneath. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he's a guy that I think provides another weapon to this offense that I think is going to be a little bit better than people think once they get going.
Yeah. All right, we're going to jump into a little bit of the defense coming up next, and be sure to drop in some questions for our last segment. Whatever you feel, whatever you want to know throughout the game, use hashtag Where's Ross to let us know that your questions for the show. This episode is brought to you by Betterhelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes, who to draft in your fantasy team. But how do you know what it actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. I mean, and we joke about it, but sports for a lot of people do bring a lot of mental health challenges. And, this time of the year, it's important to recognize that and talk through it with someone who can help. So talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All righty. Oh, Lance was out for a second. Let's talk about the defensive line because I think they need some better help off the edges of the time. Isaiah Foskey, we gave him, we highlighted him as someone who needed to stand out, and he did stand out, just not in a great way. It continues to look on the defensive edge that Chris Rumph and Fadil Diggs, although Fadil Diggs didn't have as good of a day as he did last week, it still feels like those are the guys that you want backing up Chase Young, Carl Granderson, and Cam Jordan on the edge there.
Yeah, before we even get into the specifics of the defensive line, I think it's got to be frustrating as a fan going into the preseason, not knowing who's going to play, and then you show up and it's the whole entire starting group that's not playing. Like, I mean, it'd be different if it was like, okay, we're not going to play, these 3 or 4 guys, and the rest of the guys are going to get some reps. But like the whole unit not being out there, and then you obviously you're going to cheer for your team and you want them to do well, but they're going against the starters of the other team, and the starters are just going up and down the field on them. Like that's got to be frustrating, especially being in the dome. I know it is because it was frustrating for me sitting on my couch watching it. But yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like not having any type of edge rush, especially against that first unit where we know Trevor Lawrence has the skill set to be able to do whatever he wanted with no worries of anybody ever even being around him. It's tough. Like it's tough on your DBs to be able to cover as long as they need to cover. I don't know. Like it's I don't know how you make the decisions you need to make if you don't see everybody. But this is the modern day NFL where teams are more cautious as far as getting all of their guys a bunch of reps in the preseason because they want to make sure that they get them to the regular season. And I really wonder, like, are you doing yourself a disservice by doing that? Because then when if it so happens that most of those guys on the defense don't play any reps until week 1, it's like, well, wow, like these are their first reps. Like, how are they supposed to get in any kind of flow or a groove?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say I loved preseason games, but once I was in the game, like I always was excited about it. And like, I was like, okay, now football is like really back. Like we're playing games, we're in the dome, we're in another stadium. And like, it feels good to get that, knock the rust off. You haven't played a game since January the season before. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I do think that Chris Rumph is making a case to be a guy on the roster. Vernon Broughton today made some plays. A guy that has needed to make some plays and to kind of show that what he could potentially be for this defense. But I don't want to talk too bad or poorly about Isaiah Foskey, but I just think what everybody needed to see. I'm not going to say what we needed to see, what everybody needed to see. That means fans, that means coaches, that means everybody in the entirety of that organization. I just don't know that it's there. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. And maybe if it doesn't work out here, he's able to figure out what needs to change for him to have a successful career. But I just I just don't see the juice that you need to see on the
we've
edge.
seen
I
it
don't see
happen
the
before.
motor. Yeah, well, we have, we have, but I just, I don't know. It's unfortunate, and I just, as a guy that had to earn his roster spot numerous times, it's disappointing when you see a guy that was picked highly, not able to pan out and be the guy that they drafted him to be. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, that's fair. Talking a little bit more about the fact that all of the defense sat, I do agree. Defense preseason, it's really weird right now because it always felt like a necessary evil. They play 3 games before the start of the year for a reason. People need to get up to speed. People need to, I'm not as worried about like a Demario Davis or a Cam Jordan being ready for week 1, but like, are we really at a point where like Kool-Aid McKinstry is already sitting out preseason games? Like, again, I there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a starter in week 1, and maybe that's their thinking.
Right.
But with as young as that cornerback room is, it feels like you need to get everybody as many reps as they possibly can.
Look, to that specific point, Brian Thomas Jr. was a Pro Bowler last year as a rookie.
Yeah.
And he played almost the whole first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I understand every coach has their own philosophy, but saying that Kool-Aid McKinstry doesn't need any reps in a preseason game to me just doesn't seem super smart.
No, it really doesn't. Because it's not like he is, like, to your point, an all-pro or Pro Bowler at the quarter. I think that we've seen what we've liked a lot, but again, you just want to see him and see that room playing together as much as possible. Like,
right.
I mean, I'm glad at least, like Quincy Riley, Isaac Yadam got some play, but
they have to. That's not like we have. It's not like we have 15 corners. You know what I mean? If you sit the first 3 corners, the other guys have to play.
Yeah, I guess was it just Kool-Aid and Alante that?
Well, I guess 2 corners.
Yeah,
I guess those guys don't play. But I'm just saying, like,
again, you look at the team and you're like, man, I feel like Kool-Aid and Alante could still use some more reps in this defense.
For sure.
It's the first year of a defensive scheme. No matter how good they've looked in the preseason or how good it feels like Brandon Staley, I mean, at this point, it's hard to imagine them not feeling good about their starting 11 on defense. They sat them all pretty much in this game. But you want to.
I wonder if that means that they're going to play next week.
Maybe.
Like I mean, we didn't see Shough and Olave last week. They didn't play. They both played this week.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not trying. I mean, I guess I am trying to read into it a little bit too much, but like, I don't know. I for it to be such a new defense, to not see them play as a unit until week 1, to me, will leave me scratching my head if they don't start out smoking.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they have to.
They have to at this point. That's kind of like, maybe the coaches have seen what they need to see through training camp, and they're like, you know what, we're good to go. Like, we have the guys that are going to start, and we're figuring out now what the depth at each of those positions looks like. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I'm just trying to. I guess I'm not going to try to figure it out because I'll probably never get the answer to that. But we'll see what happens this week.
Keeping with the defense, Jalen Ford made a big play. He made a nice play. Again, Danny Stutzman looked good.
Yeah.
I feel like again and again, I don't even know if I expected it, but the linebacker room feels like the strength of this defense, like just in terms of top end quality and depth. I feel like we're at a point where one of the top guys could go down, and I'm not too worried about it because I think that Jalen Ford, Nephi Sewell, Danny Stutzman, DeMarco Jackson, Isaiah Stallbird's making a push for the team on special teams. It's going to be interesting to see the decision making in that room because you can't keep 7 linebackers.
Correct.
At least, I mean, I guess you technically can, but you probably shouldn't.
Well, and like somebody like Isaiah Stallbird, like, he's not a guy that's going to, in my opinion, probably not going to play defense at all. Yeah. But if he's a guy that can become a 4-core special team guy, 100%, there's a roster spot
like a JT Gray,
who became an All-Pro because of special teams, right? Like you're not always keeping guys because they're your third best Mike linebacker, right? Like he might be the fifth best or sixth best inside linebacker. But if he's a 4-core special teams guy, he'll make the team over a guy that could be 1 or 2 positions ahead of him on the pecking order in the linebacker room. That's just how it goes in the National Football League, because you've only got 53 roster spots and then 46 or 47 dressed on game day. So 45 or 46 dressed on game day. So you've only got that many spots. You can't have a bunch of guys dressed who are not getting reps for you in offense, defense, or special teams. So I think that him making plays on defense will make them more comfortable keeping him on special teams in the case that somebody or somebody's go down and he has to play defense. I mean, I think that just helps to kind of solidify his spot because of how good he can be on special teams. Now they know, okay, this guy can make plays on defense as well. We'll be okay if if it comes down to a situation where he has to play defense for us.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Looking at other guys who have stood out today. Jonas, yes, we have to talk about Jonas. He is, shaping up to be. I really like this rookie draft class so far. I mean, it's been good. It seems like they have at least a couple of playmakers. And Sanker, again, awesome day. Even before that interception.
Yeah, no, he was flying around. He was making tackles. He seemed to be in the mix a lot. He's comfortable throwing his body around, which is what you want to see from a safety. Like in the DB group, the general sense is the corners cover and the safeties tackle. And so if you've got a safety that is comfortable throwing his body around and making tackles and being able to make plays in space as well, that's exactly what you want from them. He was around the ball. He had a couple opportunities early to make plays on the ball that he was close, that the tight end made a great catch on the early play in the first quarter. Or I think that might've even been the second quarter at that point. But I feel good about him and the type of player that he could be. And again, he's adding depth to that safety group that I think could end up being one of the deeper groups on the entire team. I mean, if you look at, the 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 guys that they end up keeping at that position. I'm excited about him. I mean, I wasn't as excited early on, but after watching him, I'm like, okay, I like this guy. I like how he plays. I like that he's physical. I like that he's a playmaker, right? With the interception, I was hoping that he was going to run it back for a touchdown so we could get a win and be celebrating. But I'll take the him, getting what he could get, and hopefully in a regular season game, he realizes that there's what the clock kind of looks like. He steps out of bounds and we kick it and we win the game. But I'm not
mad at him for trying to take it back in a preseason game. Not at all.
I'm not either.
Not at all.
No.
I think that him being able to learn and not have the need to play as much immediately and being able to see what Justin Reed does is a perfect situation for him, because I think that they're very, very similar players. I like what we're seeing. And Jonas, it was fun interviewing, talking to him, because he is a super nice, super quiet. He's really, really smart. He was great to talk to. And then you get on the field and he's like this demon that's always trying to get to the ball.
You got to turn it on.
Those are the most fun DBs, and he knows how to turn it on, because whenever he is on the field, again, it's hard to take your eyes off of him at times. And that's, what I could say about a bunch of these rookies. Danny Tussman, Quincy Riley, all of these guys are getting to the ball as much as possible. And I think that is exactly what you need to see out of your rookie draft class in what was a really important draft for the Saints. No matter what they did with, a quarterback in the second round, even if he doesn't start the year, I think that this could still be a big win of a draft class so far.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel better about it than I did.
No, I remember. Oh, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I was upset. Obviously, the jury's still out. There's a lot to be
We're
determined.
preseason game too, but the vibes are better than they
vibes
were.
are definitely better for sure. And I also think that it's a long-term play, right? This wasn't a, hey, this draft class is going to help us get to the Super Bowl in 2026. Like this draft was potentially a foundation setting piece, right, to build from in the next couple of drafts so that hopefully you become a better and more deep roster. But I do think we're going to see some heavy contributions for sure from this draft class this season.
Yeah. Well, coming up next, closing us out, we're going to talk in a little bit of, some more winners, some more losers, and some that really need to stand out in the final week of preseason. Close us out today. Let's jump into the players that really need to show out next week in terms if they want to, maybe win a starting job, win a backup job, win a roster spot. Who comes to mind first for you in terms of I really need to see something out of this guy next week?
I mean, I think it's some of those guys on the offensive line, like the depth pieces, because of the injuries. Like, I feel like Landon Young is pretty much a lock, but beyond Landon Young, who are going to be offensive linemen 7 and 8? Like that's the question mark for me, because I would imagine we're probably not going to see the starting offensive line, or probably not the entire starting offensive line. So who are those guys that are going to step up? And then I'll bump it out one: tight ends. Who are the tight ends? Who are the tight ends that are stepping up, that are going to solidify a roster spot in that game? And how do they do that? Is it going to be as simple as, oh, this guy made a bunch of plays in the passing game, or is it going to be like, you know what, this dude was a butt kicker? I was going to cuss. We're not allowed to cuss on this show. So is this guy was really?
I won't cut Ross.
well, this guy really did his thing in the run game, and he created running lanes, and he had push up front. Like, what are we looking for as far as the depth of that tight end position goes? And while we're on tight ends, every single game I watch, there is a tight end that is not super duper athletic, that catches a ball, that tries to stop and make a guy miss, and always gets tackled right there where he stops his feet. Tight end coaches, high school, peewee, if you're in this, you're listening to us, please tell your tight ends to keep running. Their momentum is already going. They don't need to be stopping their feet because it takes too long for them to get going again. They're generally not making anybody miss with anything other than a dead leg or a jab. Just keep running, be big. And if a little DB wants to come and try to tackle you, just drop your pads on them and fall forward. Stop this stopping your feet trying to. You can't juke anybody, bruh. You play tight end. It's rare. It's rare. Juwan Johnson was a receiver that converted to tight end. He's allowed to start and stop. Taysom Hill was a quarterback / running back that got moved to tight end. He's allowed to start and stop. He's got running back skills. Regular tight ends don't need to be stopping their feet. They need to be running and then run through the contact. But anyways, back to my point. I would love to see what the depth. So the younger guys on the offensive line, the young tight ends, those guys definitely need to step up. I think that, I don't want to name somebody who I think is a fringe roster guy. He's got to do X, Y, and Z. We already did that with Isaiah Foskey last week. That's too easy to call, right? He's got to have the game of his life in week 3 of the preseason, if he's still around, if he wants to make this roster. But I mean, I think that's I just had to get that off my chest about the tight ends, because I just don't like it. I don't understand for the life of me why these guys see a little 200-pound DB running toward them and they want to stop their feet thinking that they're going to shake that dude. You're not shaking him, bro. And you're making the tackle easier for him because you're not even moving anymore. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I apologize.
Well, I'm actually going to keep us at tight end because that's a spot we haven't talked about a lot. But we can talk more about the Saints tight ends. Trayton Welch is a guy who has flashed at times throughout camp and made some plays. He had that nice, what I think was maybe like Shough's best throw of was the best throw of the day. One of his better throws.
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
But better.
But you know what? It was dangerous from a fan's perspective. Mm-hmm. From a quarterback's perspective, he could see the back of that defender's jersey. He knew that his guy was the only one that should be able to make a play on that ball, right? Like you don't want to throw that ball if the defender's running with him and he's got his eyes back at the quarterback, but knowing that he could see that defender's nameplate, he could throw the ball where it's his guy or nobody. And that was a great throw and a great catch by Welsh as well. I mean, that was a pro level throw, an NFL quarterback level throw. And, great to see him take that chance as well. Like a guy that was definitely covered, but he, in essence, threw him open.
Yeah. Oh. Hey.
Rose.
Ross is in the end zone. Ross is in the end zone right now that we've been begging to see the Saints get more into in this region.
I am here in the end zone in the Superdome. All that Lance, this used to be your house, man. You own this place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got to do a dance for me while you're in there.
Here, I'll do this one for you. I got to put my hands, bang.
Hey, there you go.
I was counting. I almost threw the flag.
That was only two.
No, I only did two.
Oh, Ross, give us your initial thoughts. Give us your breakdown. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this showed you the value of what it is that the Saints have been working on relentlessly all offseason so far, which is a lot of situational football. When you've got a young team, young quarterbacks, all that kind of stuff, sometimes the way that you win games is winning the situations that you're handed as opposed to being a team that goes out there and blows everybody out or anything like that. And so just to see them come in and be able to operate so successfully, 2-minute drive at the end of the first half last week with Tyler Shough, 2-minute drive at the end of the game during this game with Spencer Rattler, getting 2-point conversion, which the Saints have not been very successful in 2-point conversions over the course of the past few years. Remember, they were 1 2-point conversion away from a win last year against Washington, right? And so I think that to me was the most impressive part. And it shows you how much they've drilled that and where the value of all that comes from. And then just the defense kind of showing up late when they needed to and everything too. Like if you're in a position at the end of the game where you're within a score, that's a winnable game. And so I loved seeing the way that the Saints kind of treated it that way and went out there and won that last situation, which gave them, Kellen Moore said that it wasn't a win, but it felt like a win in the locker room. And I'm certain that's the case.
Yeah. Well, Kellen must be a family member of mine because I said the same exact thing when we came in here. Like that tie today felt like a win, right?
Yeah.
Like at the most of the game, it was kind of like can we just get through this? But getting that score and that 2-point conversion and then ultimately that turnover, gave us a feel good or a good feeling toward the end of that game and one to be happy about in the end, as opposed to being sick to your stomach until you wait until the next game, as has happened with us the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ross, give me your quick thoughts, quick rundown on the quarterbacks. That's the big question with this team.
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if they take this into a third game next week against Denver. I thought Tyler Shough won the first game, maybe not by the widest margin, but won that first game. And then for me, Spencer Rattler won this game by maybe a slightly wider version. But I don't think that Spencer Rattler, or excuse me, that Tyler Shough by any stretch of the imagination or anything like that, or played poor.
You're cutting out a little bit.
There was the I don't think that Tyler Shough necessarily had a poor showing. I think that he had some not so great moments, right? The intentional grounding can't happen. And like the intentional grounding or taking a sack at the end, ultimately the same thing by the time that was all said and done. But that's, cutting into kind of some of his numbers and things like that. Didn't see him really find a deep ball the way that he could have. That third drive when they had the drop with Chris Olave had that drop. I thought that was something that maybe like an opportunity to build some momentum there that they didn't get to take advantage of. But I thought overall Spencer Rattler had the better showing, and he's going to be the hero of this game along with Jonas Sanker getting the interception at the end there, because not only does he lead that touchdown drive going 7 of 8 in that 2-minute drive, but, big thing that Kellen Moore has said from the very beginning was that this battle is going to come down to who can run the operation. And that was a really, really good job running the operation there. So we'll see. I think they're going to take it into a third game. And I think because the Saints aren't necessarily in a situation to where they're, looking at going and trying to win 10 games and get to a playoffs, fine, take it into a third game and then, try to make the right decision there. And then, but whoever you pick, you just got to be patient with. You can't change 4 weeks into the season. I think that's kind of where this is going with that quarterback battle.
I agree with that. I was thinking really like one of the things I've been critical on Rattler about, and I think deservedly so, was that closing out the drive, getting to the end zone, getting into the end zone. And it's something he has struggled with a lot in game action, in camp, earlier in this game. But again, he answered it perfectly. He came out and he proved it. He got into the end zone. He got the 2-point conversion. For everyone who was feeling a little bit down on Rattler or anything like that, this was the exact type of performance he needed to have.
Yeah.
And he did it.
I would agree with that. I think they're going to, we'll see what happens, but I think they'll probably take this into
a third week. Ross is in the Superdome cutting in and out. But
even
wait. There you go.
Am I good? All right. Anyway, I think Spencer Rattler did what he needed to do. I think he did himself a lot of favors. Let me just say it that way.
Yeah. Moving on, defense. Any big defensive takeaways, standouts? Because again, there was no starters playing. There was a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, Isaac Yiadom was like the only defensive starter that saw the field at the beginning of this game. I think the biggest thing comes down to the takeaways, right? Being opportunistic, falling on the fumble. That's a rookie that did that with Vernon Broughton. And then getting the interception was a second-year linebacker in Jalen Ford, who showed you why playing with vision matters for this defense and the way that Brandon Staley's going about things. And then, the interception at the end where you get the pass break up and Jonas Sanker just being in the right place at the right time. He said he probably should have gone out of bounds a little bit earlier to give the team an opportunity to kick a field goal there, but he was thinking house call. And you know what? It's the preseason. Go ahead, live. You know what I mean? But so it was cool just to see like young guys out there making those plays. I think pass rush, run defense early on in the game, big time concerns there. Not a lot going on. But like you said, like those weren't the starters. So we're not really evaluating starters in that conversation. It's just that like if the entire defensive second teams had to go out there, I'd be worried about them from a run stopping standpoint.
Yeah.
All right, Lance, what is one thing that you want to see from this team as a whole in the next preseason game based off of this?
Based on whoever plays, I want them to come out of this game healthy. I mean, that's
fair. Yeah.
That's what I want to see, right? More so than any specific player or position group stepping up and becoming, solidified on the roster. Like I want to see whoever is out there playing to get out of there healthy. And that even goes for guys that aren't going to be on this roster, right? Because I want them, the guys that that are ultimately released, I want them to be able to hopefully have an opportunity somewhere else. And if they're not back on the practice squad with us, I would love for those guys to be able to be healthy enough to go off and get an opportunity to do their thing on another roster. I mean, that was me, my rookie year, right? Like I was with the Browns as a rookie in the preseason and I got cut before I was signed on to the Saints practice squad a couple of weeks later. So, it's hard for that to happen if you have an injury in the last preseason game.
Yeah. Ross, same question to you. What do you want to see next week?
What do I want to see next week? I think the biggest thing that I want to see is this run game, the rushing offense work. I thought that we saw 3 running backs in particular play really hard. Kendre Miller, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as well as Velus Jones Jr. Velus Jones Jr. was finding all those creases late in the game, which is great because in that 2-minute drill, or even before that 2-minute drill, when you can run the football a little bit, it gives you some more opportunities in your operation. And so I think seeing that, but then seeing sort of the run scheme begin to come together, I think is like really the one last kind of missing piece. That's the biggest kind of unanswered question for Kellen Moore's offense so far. And I know some of it's being saved for the regular season. I get that, but that's the biggest thing that I'm probably going to be watching going into next week, outside of whatever happens at quarterback here moving forward.
Yeah. And, there's a missing piece on the team. And the missing piece whenever we're not here is y'all, the listeners, here with the Saints Squad show. So I hope that you're going to be able to come and fill in that missing piece next week, later this week on Thursday. Thank you for listening to the Saints Squad show. Check out me, Ross, John, and Lance on our socials for the latest. We'll be right back here on Thursday to talk a little bit more about what happened and get ready for the last preseason game.